Jess Herbst, mayor of New Hope, Texas. Do I have that right?
Absolutely right. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess, for being on the program. So we've been talking about this issue today, a lot about the transgender issue. First off, for people who don't know, so this is in New Hope, Texas, a small town, about 600 something people. It's an aldermanic system of government, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. One mayor and 5 aldermen.
Okay. So how did you become mayor then, for people who aren't maybe aware of the process?
Okay. Well, I've been an alderman since 2003.
Okay.
I was up for my re-election as alderman last year at this time. I've also been mayor pro tem since 2013. I was running. The mayor was running. The mayor died 3 days before the election was held. He still won. So that left the town council with no mayor. In our particular type of town, we're a Class B town under Texas general law.
Okay.
The city council appoints a new mayor. They nominated and voted for me unanimously. So I've been mayor ever since.
Okay. And I want to be clear, but now you were an alderman before, but that was as Jeff Herbst, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. They did not know me as Jess. The council didn't know me as Jess until last November, and the town did not know me as Jess until February 1st.
So can you still put it on your resume at that point? What are the rules with that?
I think so. Yeah, it was the same warm body that was in there.
Okay, all right. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are. So, listen. Obviously, this is a hot button issue right now. You've been very outspoken. You've been upset about the bathroom bill. Donald Trump has kicked this back to the states, and in Texas, They want people to use the bathroom according to their biological sex. Why do we have a problem with that?
Well, let's see. Because. Do you want me in the bathroom with you? And do you want trans men in the bathroom with your wives and girlfriends? We've been using the bathroom since the dawn of time. It's never been a problem until somebody had an issue. And the whole bathroom bill is a smokescreen anyway. That's really not what this bill is about. This bill is about taking the rights of the city to make anti-discrimination laws away from them. The only reason that they want to do this, city of Plano, city of Dallas, city of Austin, several cities in Texas, just like Charlotte, North Carolina, have passed their own anti-LGBT discrimination laws. They say you can't discriminate. Austin doesn't want that. They want to have that control for themselves. Same thing with North Carolina. North Carolina passed that bill not for bathrooms. They were upset because Charlotte had passed their own anti-discrimination bill, and they wanted to control it. And if you were a legislator and you wanted to say, we're going to use the state to take the city's rights to pass their own individual ordinances away from them, would you tell people that? Would you say, hey, we're here to pass a bill to take your rights as a city away? No, you wouldn't get 2 inches with that. So what you're going to do is make them afraid. You're going to say, hey, let's come up with an issue like transgender people. People will be afraid of that, and that you can beat the drum around that. And people who don't understand transgender people are just automatically afraid of it. It's like, oh my God, they're weird. There's something wrong with them.
Hold on a second. What if they're not afraid? What if they just disagree? What if they just disagree and they think, because gender has no basis in biology. Let's talk about sex. I'm just saying, shouldn't you allow for room that maybe someone can just disagree and not be afraid or not be discriminating? They just disagree and they think you were born a man.
Let me ask you a question. The last time you were in the stall in a bathroom, did you know what was between the legs of the person in the stall next to you?
No, but we're not just talking about the stalls. We're talking about the common areas, and that's beside the point of, again, this is an idea. There are major institutions in the United States that revolve around sex. Higher education. When you talk about scholastic programs, bathrooms are a portion of that, and there is a legitimate argument, legitimate grievance from people, particularly parents, who say, okay, bathrooms, but now we see with sports, with this girl who's transitioning into a boy who just won in your state, a Texas state wrestling title. There's no basis in biology for gender compared to sex, and if someone says that, is that hateful?
Well, no, but that's not actually true. There is a basis in biology. There have been quite a few studies that show that there's a distinct difference in the brain of a transgender individual than there is in a cisgender individual. So there is a basis in biology. There is something different about us. We didn't wake up in the morning and go, gee, I think we're going to do this. This is something you're born with, and you live this for your whole life.
Yeah.
As far as the
I'll disagree with you there. We can go back to it, but I'll disagree with you there, and I have some scientific studies in front of me. Again, keeping it respectful, just disagreeing. I want to make sure we allow for room where someone is not afraid or thinks someone's weird. It's okay.
Okay. You are confusing SB 6 with the president's guidance. The guidance deals with schools. And you're right. When you get to a locker room where there's open areas, there needs to be some concession made there to make sure that people aren't looking at each other's genitals. But SB6 has nothing to do with locker rooms. It has to do with public bathrooms.
Sure.
And again, I don't want to know what the gender or what's between the legs of the person next to me saw. I just want to go in and pee and then come out. I've been doing it for years. I've never heard anybody.
Right, but the onus is on you at that point, because there are people, for a long time, people have been going to the bathroom that is assigned by their biological sex. There is biological sex. It's not a social construct. It exists. And most people are uncomfortable with changing that. They want to go into the bathroom with biological women or biological males. That's the issue. So it doesn't matter if you just want to pee. So do they. They just want to pee. So it comes down to the issue of science, not about feelings. One thing, the biggest study that's been conducted, I have the abstract right here. Prior to cross-sex hormone treatment, no differences in brain volumes between transsexuals and comparison subjects were found. The changes only happen when we put it in a controlled clinical trial study after cross hormone replacement therapy. Now, again, we're just getting into sense. This doesn't mean that you can't make your own personal decisions on how you want to live your life, but enforcing them upon people who disagree, and they disagree on a scientific basis, is why I think this is such a hot button issue.
Yeah, but you're citing one study. There are several other studies that show something completely different. There's not a whole lot of studies on transgender. They didn't even begin. The word didn't even come about until the 70s.
That's true.
And there are just as many studies that show that yes, there's brain differences before cross-sex hormones, and there's studies that show they don't happen. It just depends on which study you look at and who you're listening to. The point of the matter is, people really don't know why we're transgender. And the thing is, if you don't know that the person next to you is transgender, why do you care? Why do you want to
Because
force
we do
me
know what their
into...
sex is. So if we're operating on you don't know, you do know what their sex is. Biological sex can be scientifically determined. I'm not talking about going in and having mirrored shoes, looking at everyone's hoo-ha's or penis.
So then how do you know?
Because of how you were born.
So
as a male or female, and then that's the rule set forward. Just like you have to, if you go to an all-male school, if you go to an all-female school, if you get to compete on the female track team, if you get to compete on a male's wrestling team, you're a male or a female.
Okay. I'm sorry, but if you know the biological sex, the way somebody was born, of a perfect stranger in the bathroom next to you, you're doing something wrong. There's something wrong with what you're doing. You shouldn't know what that person has between their legs. Go in there and pee. Leave them alone. It's not.
No one's
business.
not leaving them alone. This is about the institution and the idea of sex, of biological sex.
It's just about the idea. You think you know what I am, so therefore you're going to get upset about it. Let me give you an example. Here in Texas,
biologically you are a man. That's not an insult. Biologically you are a man. Your sex is male.
We're not going to worry about me. Let's talk about.
Well, you said you think you know who I am, so I'm just saying that. Yes, biologically you are a male.
So in Frisco, not too long ago, a man saw what they thought was a transgender woman going in the bathroom. He went in the bathroom, drug her out, and assaulted her. She just happened to be a little bit masculine. Yeah.
And they get the short end of the stick, big girls, because they don't get the benefit of the doubt. By the way, that's abhorrent, totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable, but it's anecdotal. That's not what we're talking about.
Well, it is, because you're saying that I'm going to know the sex of somebody else, not me. You've seen Laverne Cox. What bathroom does she use? If you didn't know, if you didn't ask, if you didn't look, you wouldn't know. If you didn't know, it wouldn't be a problem. That's the whole point. We've been doing this. You've been going to the bathroom with transgender people your whole life.
No, listen. That's not true.
Really?
We can tell.
It is true.
We can tell.
No, you can't.
Jess, respectfully, I can tell.
Okay. I've been on hormones for 2 years. I'm 58 years old. I'm not that good. But trust me, there are people you can't tell. There are lots of people you can't tell. And you've been going to the bathroom with them. See, the problem is that it's not the people that are, we hate to use the term passable. It's the people like me that are not passable. That freaks you out.
Well, then that contradicts your idea that you would never know. Again, that's the issue, that people do know, and people people since the beginning of time who agree on this biologically determined idea of sex don't want to upend it because of a political movement of gender. I don't think that's right.
That's not really the case. The whole
tell me how I'm wrong.
Gender bathrooms, there were not men and women bathrooms until about the 1890s. Before that, there were no men and women bathrooms. Most societies, going back to the end of time, have had multiple genders. Transgender is something that has been accepted in cultures since the beginning of time. It wasn't until the modern age that things started changing.
That's not entirely accurate. People who you can talk about eunuchs, you can talk about manservants, you can talk about people who effectively acted as an amoeba filling the role that was determined for them at the time, which I don't necessarily think is a good basis for our current society. But our current society, right now in the modern world, we recognize sex biologically. The onus is on someone else who wants to upend that because of a political movement based on gender. And I don't believe that anyone's made a convincing argument. I don't think there's anything wrong with a state or a city saying you use the bathroom that applies to your sex. There is no biology for the basis of gender and how someone identifies or feels.
Why are you so worried about my biology? Why is it your business? Why is it everybody else's business? I don't go in and go, let me see your biology. I want to make sure that you live up to the standard of being a man. I don't ask you that. Why are you asking me? Why is it your business what I am? I'm going to walk in the bathroom. I'm going to sit down in the stall. I'm not going to bother you. When I get finished, I'm going to wash my hand. I'm going to walk out.
Sure.
How does that hurt anyone?
Okay.
How does it affect anyone?
Can I answer? Can I answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Well, I've seen some of your tweets. I've seen some of your profiles on what you do, and you do assume some ulterior motives of your opposition sometimes. That it's hateful, that they find people scary, that if they disagree, it's discrimination. So first off, that matters because it's framing an argument, a scientific argument, as an opinionative one. It's taking, as we saw Chris Cuomo saying, it's about the science. Well, let's talk about the science. It's about acceptance. So that's my issue there.
It is.
And then it's either about the science or acceptance. It can't be about both. And then my issue after that is, again, we are talking about the institution of the idea of male and female biologically determined. We see this with the wrestler case right now. We saw it with Fallon Fox, a male who became a female and beat the crap out of women. We see that now. We see professors who are perhaps being drawn up for hate speech charges for misgendering their students. We see it with the WNBA has different standards from the Olympic Committee. There needs to be a set standard of what is a male and female, and people are saying now, and I think there's more pushback than ever because of the LGBTQAI community trying to blur the lines, where people are saying, well, science, let's go back to basic biology, and that's why.
Okay. And I understand where you're coming from, and it is by a very solid belief that you have, and a lot of people do, that gender and sex, if you want to use sex, they're different, is binary. You are only a male or only a female, yet everything in the world, nothing in the world is binary. There's not night and then instantly day. There's twilight in between. And there's the same thing with people. In our minds, we are somewhere in between. And there's people that are far more one way than me. I'm somewhere in the middle.
Sure.
It's not a binary world that we're trying to be fit into.
But that's what you just said, in your mind. But that's not the physical and biological world. They're not the same thing. It's either about the science or acceptance. And you talked about the science, as Chris Cuomo does. And then when we want to talk about the science, you then say, well, it's not about the science, it's about in our minds. And I think that's important.
It is the science of our mind. It is our brains that make us this way. And the science shows that there's a difference in our brain. There's a reason we feel this way. We don't do this by choice. This is the way we've always felt. And there's more to it than just the bathroom that you're not understanding.
No, and that's what I'm bringing up. It's about the entire idea of male and female. That's why the bathroom issue matters, especially when in New York City you can sue a landlord for calling you a he.
Well, actually, no. A landlord in Texas can kick me out for being transgender with no ramifications. I can lose my job.
And he can kick me out for not supporting your opinion as a transgender. That's the beauty of freedom.
He can't.
Yes, he can.
There are laws against that.
Yes, he can.
There's no protection. There's no protection for me whatsoever. You are protected. You can't get thrown out of your apartment for your opinion.
Sure, I can.
It's ridiculous.
Sure, I can.
But you can sue him and you can win. I cannot. There's no protection.
That is the opposite of the truth, Jess.
No, it's not.
Jess, respectfully, Texas is a no fault state in that sense. You can fire anyone for any reason. You can evict anyone for any reason. My parents had it when they first moved to Texas. They were in a townhome, and the neighbor. It was one of these community areas in Texas, and their neighbors' dogs were crapping on their lawn. They complained to the landlord, saying, "Listen, their dogs are crapping on their lawn. They happen to be friends with those people." They said, "Well, you're out because we allow them to crap on your lawn." In Texas, they can do it for any reason with any person, regardless of LGBTQ. That's just the reality.
Yeah, except it's not. That was an HOA, and
no, it wasn't an HOA.
That HOA agreement. Then who do they go to?
The Texas law allows you to evict. Texas law allows you to fire without cause. Period. Whereas in New York, you can sue a landlord because it's now law if they misgender you. Can we agree that that's absurd?
I don't know that that's true, so I'll take your word for it.
Let's say I misgender you. Let's say I say Jeff. Let's say I say he or something. Should you have the right to be able to sue me or consider that hate speech?
So you said you've read some of my blogs. You know how I feel about it, right? You've been through my blogs. You understand what I've said. I don't care what you call me.
Right.
It's not a big deal to me. You can call me anything you want.
But I'm talking about the right. Is that a fundamental right to be referred to as a pronoun as someone demands? Do you have the right to infringe upon someone else the language they must use?
Nobody has the right to be referred to anything other than what the person around them wants to. It doesn't mean you have to like that. It doesn't mean that that person is a decent human being for doing it. But no, you don't have. I don't have the right to force you to call me anything.
Okay.
If you want to call me Fred for the rest of the interview, you can. That's your right.
I won't. I don't want to be disrespectful. I want to disagree respectfully.
Okay. My brother's name is Fred. That might make him feel good.
Okay. Well, good. Well, listen. If we talk about the brain issue, the science doesn't. I have the science in front of me. I would respectfully disagree. It doesn't bear that out. But you look at. We talked about this. 98% of confused boys and 88% of confused girls eventually accept their gender after puberty.
That you can say it all you want, but that is just pumping up the issue. Confused. We're not confused. I know who I am. You think I would do this? Do you think I would give up white male privilege to do this if I was confused?
No, but
I do this because this is who I am.
I do think you could be confused. Just like I think I was confused when I wore lady jeans and had long bangs at one point because I thought it looked cool. Just like people who wear MC Hammer pants. I'm not saying you are confused, but I allow for the possibility that you could be. But you could be. Just as I could be confused. I could look back on this in 20 years and say, you know what, I was totally wrong.
And could be is a little different than just saying these people are.
Well, statistically, they are. That's the issue I want to get to. Statistically, when you look at 98% of confused boys, 98% of boys end up going back to their gender. 88% of girls. When you look at the suicide rates.
Where are you getting these statistics? Where do you get the 98% of boys, and why are you calling them confused?
Most of the statistics that I'm bringing up, we're talking about studies and.
So you're talking about people that were born a woman, but they are a trans man, right?
Well, we're talking about we're talking about teenagers. We're talking about teenagers who are often encouraged right now by the trans community to come out, as we saw with the wrestling case, who then end up reverting back to their biological sex. Many do. And then if you want to talk about where I'm getting my statistics, PubMed from that previous study, right now this is from the Williams Institute, 41% of obviously trans people, you know this, you've talked about this, attempt suicide. And the numbers don't get better after the surgery. So could we not?
No, that's where they're wrong. The numbers do get much better after the surgery. The suicide rate drops drastically.
This is incorrect. This is incorrect.
No, you're incorrect. Your figures.
This is incorrect, and this is why most medical establishments won't do the surgery because it's too high risk.
That's not true. The vast majority of medical professionals and psychological professionals agree that transgender people should be treated as the gender that they identify with. There's a minor group of they're not even really doctors. They have doctors in their name, but they just say that. They're just a hate group, and they publish
this is totally false. I'm sorry, it's totally false.
No,
and for the people of the left or people who consider themselves pro-science, biological sex is determined. Every single medical field that involves human biology or animal biology, it revolves around this. The first thing they do if they're taking notes, if they're checking turtles, they lift up the shell and say male or female. The first thing you do when you go into a doctor is they say male or female. And if you say identify as a female, but you still have a penis, they're going to treat you as a male. They're going to treat the same symptoms as that of a male. That doesn't change regardless of opinion. And to say that they're not doctors is silly.
Well, I said they're not doctors because the people who publish these studies, the people behind a lot of these things are not doctors. They're just behind a hate group that calls themselves the American Medical
John Hopkins Association. They're a hate group? Yeah,
John Hopkins, because those people were the guy who published that. If you go back and look, John Hopkins has disavowed any. They're not standing behind that guy. They're saying that he is not representing John Hopkins, and his opinion does not represent John Hopkins' opinion.
Okay.
And you've looked at that.
No, let me ask you, but I'm talking about the establishment. It doesn't matter. They don't perform the surgery. Okay, go ahead and ask me a question, and I have a question for you.
What do we do about intersex people?
Well, again, you're talking about a very, very small percentage of a percentage point. So we don't change the entire societal structure because of a very small percentage of a percentage.
Well, what do you do with that? So you just throw them away? They don't count? They're not human beings?
No one's saying throw them away. Again, you're appealing to an emotional argument. This is not a biological argument. So we'll make an exception. We'll make an exception for intersex people.
It's a biological. Okay, so how are you going to determine that?
How are we going to determine where the intersex people go once they are grown up and they are determined to be male or female by a medical professional? Again, we go
But
back to
they're
medical
not.
professional.
Hang on, but they're not. It's not A or B.
This
It's
is where we
not
go back to
binary. They are
abortion. What
both.
if it's about rape or incestuous
No,
rape? It's such a
it's not
small
that.
percentage point. It's
Keeps-
not relevant to
okay.
the point,
Let's
and that's
go
not
back
what you're
to
arguing as
biology.
far as law. And you have the ability to enact law. So I want to talk about the law and the
Let's go back
science.
to you keep talking biology
Go
and
ahead.
science. An intersex person biologically is both. Biologically, they have characteristics of both genitalia.
Right.
What do you do about them?
I just answered.
You said you make an exception, right?
I said we will. Yeah, I just answered that question. So let's give you that.
What you said was you'll wait until we determine what sex they are, but they're not. They're both sex. They are both sex, and they
The
will
vast
be both
majority
sex.
of intersex people end up living as one sex.
Only because at birth the doctor makes a determination. And,
No,
and
actually
changes
not.
it.
Actually,
they do surgery. No, and there's a big movement about that. There's
not a
people that are
big
just
movement because if all
horrified.
intersex people in the entire world got together, it couldn't be a big movement. So let me ask you.
Well, it's
let me
one
ask
out of
you-
100 people.
It's
so
not one out of
it's a
100
pretty big
people. That's
movement.
entirely statistically false. It's one out of several thousand people. I don't have the number in front of me, so I'll work off of that right now. But even if it's
Okay.
1 in 100, which is not accurate, just as it's not just about one man, John Hopkins, it's about the actual medical establishment. Let me ask you
So
this: you've been
is it-
open about your
Yep.
cross hormone sex replacement therapy. So if the question is too personal, you do not have to answer it. But I do have a follow up, which I believe is relevant.
Sure.
Have you gone through the bottom half surgery?
No,
Okay, you have not. So when you go to the doctor, do you go to an OBGYN?
no.
So your
I
doctor
go
treats you as a
I
male.
go to a GP. No, my doctor treats me as a female.
Does your
She just
doctor check
recommended
your
me-
testicles? Does your
Yes, she does,
doctor
and
check
she
for
also-
testicular health? Yeah, there's nothing. I'm not saying this to
Yes.
insult you. So again, this doctor is treating you as a male.
Well, she also treats my breasts and has me get mammograms. Does your doctor do that for you?
No, it's because I didn't add artificial breasts that are non-functional.
They're not artificial. They are functional. They're 100%
They're artificial
real.
breasts.
How are they artificial?
They're not real breasts. You added them
I did not add them. They grew. They are real.
with hormone
There's
replacement
nothing-
therapy.
That's correct. And
Yes,
it's exactly the same
the
thing.
injection of artificial hormones. By the way, I
don't
was
know.
under. Oh, go ahead.
They're not injected and they're not artificial. Every person, male or female, has estrogen and testosterone.
Yep.
At puberty, the levels of those two change. All I've done is adjust mine so that when I went through puberty, if they had gone to more estrogen and testosterone, that's where I am now. My body responded to those natural hormones the same way anybody would.
Come on.
So
This is
these are
wordplay
not
as far as
fake.
natural. You in your natural state do not have breasts. It's just like Barry Bonds in his natural state did not hit the home run record. He took chemical and hormonal enhancements. Let's not get into the wordplay. My point is your doctor your doctor doesn't hate you, and your doctor has to treat you as a biological male.
My doctor treats me as a transgender individual. My doctor respects me. My doctor's been fantastic.
It's not about
Every doctor I've
disrespect.
been
I
to.
respect you as a person. I respect you as an individual. It's not about respect. We're
And
talking
they
about the
don't.
biology.
But they don't. They treat me as a person who is transgender. That is a thing. It can be. It does not have to be just male or just female. And that's the thing that's really the sticking point, okay? And I know where you're coming from.
It does, though. If you didn't artificially
world,
inject hormones, you would be just male. You know that, and I know that,
No.
and your doctor knows that. If you did not inject
Actually,
hormones, you'd be just male.
I don't inject anything. I inject absolutely nothing.
You don't go through hormone replacement
Nothing.
therapy.
I do, but I don't use any kind of needle. I don't need
Okay,
any
so
kind
how
of
do you do the
injection.
hormone replacement therapy?
The same way my wife does after she went through menopause. She wears the exact same patch I do for estrogen because her estrogen levels are low, so she gets some to bring hers up. My estrogen levels are low for who I identify as, so I wear the same type of patch to bring mine
Okay,
up.
so I misused the word injection. If not through the infusion of artificial hormones, you would be a man. Just as I am.
Why do you call
And that's not
why do you
hateful is
call
my
them-
point.
I know, but why do you call them artificial? That makes it sound like it's some sort of weird
These are
chemical
not
thing.
hormones
It's just-
that would ever occur naturally in your body in its natural male state. It's like saying cyanide is natural, hemlock is natural. Yeah, but you shouldn't have it in your body.
Because you don't have a normal level of cyanide and hemlock in your body. I have a natural level of
Actually, we
estrogen
do.
in my body, and so do you.
Not hemlock, but
You
cyanide.
okay. You have estrogen in your body.
I absolutely know that, and the ratio is actually about 12 to 15 times more. We just talked about that in the previous segment. That's why this girl should not be allowed to compete against women in wrestling. It's not fair.
Right.
Again, and now we get into the institution of sports. There's a reason that sex has mattered. There's a reason that people have been divided. By the way, it's a huge part of the feminist movement. They wanted to define the sexual lines, the sexual differences between male and female. They celebrated them. And because of that, now with this attempt to destroy these lines with a made-up, non-scientific term of gender, my point is you can live your life however you want. However, people who disagree with you are not hateful. They are not science deniers. They are actually science acknowledgists, if that's the word, acknowledgers of science. And a state and a city has the right to make that law. And most people don't want their daughters going into the bathroom with people who are biologically men. And that's perfectly reasonable. That's all.
It's not reasonable because there has never been any instance of a transgender person ever causing any problems, ever having anything in any bathroom anywhere. You know, you can't find me any instances. But tell me, how many instances have there been of men, regular men, sportsmen, I'm a man, I do this, that go into bathrooms and molest? Plenty. There's never been a transgender that did that, ever. And you know that because people have been looking for this.
It's not true. We actually wrote about it on the website, and actually, ironically enough, occurred in a Target. Yeah, but again, we're getting into the anecdotal.
Wait. That Target person was not a transgender. That was a person that was just trying to bring this whole thing up. They were not transgender.
How do you determine that?
You know that.
If in 2 months' time I say I'm a woman, how do you determine that I'm not? Why can't I go into the female Target, women's Target's restroom?
Because 2 months after that, if you're back to being a man, you're not transgender.
That's not true. What if I'm gender fluid? That's a big thing now. You support gender fluidity.
I do.
Yeah. I'm gender fluid.
So
what's to stop me from using any restroom I want?
Really, how you behave. If you're going to be a decent human being and to go in there and use the bathroom and come back out, who cares? You can use any bathroom you want.
My point is, you said that person wasn't transgender. You have no definition as to what it really is. It's how you behave in the moment.
Well, that person admitted they weren't transgender. That person admitted they were doing that.
But there's nothing to stop anyone from doing that. So you either have to determine it by science or by feelings.
You're sidetracking the issue of the fact that there has never been a legal record of an actual transgender person attacking someone. And this whole thing is built on the fact that we're going to hurt someone, that we're perverts, that for some reason, you just said, I don't want you said, I don't want my daughter going in there. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I don't want to have to give her a biology lesson when she comes out, which I think the transgender community would serve well to listen to.
If you see what's between my legs when you're going to the bathroom and you let your daughter see what's going on underneath my legs, y'all are doing the bathroom
No, but
wrong.
like you said, it's the barely passables. Let me say this respectfully, Jess, and I want to have you back on the show. If a daughter goes in and sees you in the restroom, guarantee you she's going to come out to daddy and have some questions.
You know, I've been going to the bathroom hang on, you can guarantee that, but I've been to the bathroom for the last 8 years around here. I've been in the bathroom with little girls, big girls, women, all kinds of things, and nobody's ever had any questions.
You've been a transgender for 8 years? You said it was just recent.
I have been transitioning for 2 years, but I have been, this is not I just decided this yesterday. It takes a long time.
Yes, but no girl would have a question. No girl would have a question about Jeff. They would have a question about Jess. And that's, again, we're deciding to inconvenience. We're deciding to make people uncomfortable. Everyone else, 99% of society, for a very small percentage who scream the loudest, and it's not based on biology. And my point is the people who scream the loudest. Go ahead.
Before I started transitioning, before I started taking hormones, before I went full time, yes, I spent a period of 6 years trying to figure out if I could do this, if I could survive in society, if I could go out and be myself in society and function without, the Frankenstein crowd of pitchforks and torches. Yeah. And it took a while, but I figured out that I could. So yes, I've been going to the bathroom as Jess for probably 6 years. And never once has there been an incident. Never once has there been a little girl. Kids, matter of fact, since I've come out and since I've explored the world, you know who has a problem with us? People who are over the age of 40. The kids could care less. Kids think it's perfectly fine. The younger they are, the easier they are to understand is they're not scared. The kids aren't scared. It's their parents that are freaked out.
I don't know if that's entirely accurate, but let's go with that. We do have to end this interview. Let me leave it with this. I would never, ever condone anyone being hateful, mistreating you, abusing you, or physically assaulting you. I hope that people treat you well. I hope your town is happy with you and you serve them well as mayor, but I also still agree that people should use the bathroom to which applies their biological sex. I hope we can agree on that, and hopefully you can come back on the show and we can have more productive discussions. Hey, if you like this clip, you're like most of the internet. You have a short attention span, but it was taken from the full show. You can see it in a box playing next to me. That's once a week on Thursdays, full 1.5 hour show, or you can join the Mug Club for the daily show. We have to take some of that off YouTube because they're monitoring us and censoring our words.